I have with me today Mr. Bishow Parajuli. He is the India head of the World Food Program. And as we are all aware that the World Food Program this year, mostly we've seen in the past year also, how it had been the frontal agency when it came to India giving humanitarian assistance, be it in Afghanistan or now be it in Sri Lanka. So we'll discuss with him how the agency is working and what are the plans. Welcome to ThePrint.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be with ThePrint and with you.
Thank you so much. So if I can understand from you, and that's what our viewers would also love to hear from you, the experience, the kind of assistance that, India had planned to give to Afghanistan, but then there was this kind of impediment. We had shut down our embassy at that point of time. So there was this, feeling that whether we should take Pakistan's help, but then we realized that the World Food Program is there doing the, exactly what India wanted. So if you can share that experience with us.
First of all, I want to say how grateful we are for the partnership with the Government of India, and also particularly our gratitude to Government of India for supporting and joining the world in need of this crucial time in Afghanistan. Of course, India has been a long-term partner with Afghanistan. In fact, some years back in the early 2000, India had given a 500,000 tons of wheat to Afghanistan through the World Food Program. So we milled those days and converted into biscuits and moved to help children in school. So this time, India offered 50,000 tons of wheat, of which 40,000 tons have been delivered already. The last 10,000 ton will be moving soon as we have the permission to move on. It's been an excellent operation, very smooth. It has really helped hundreds of thousands, millions of people, with food support. Nearly 20 million people were in the verge of crisis in Afghanistan, and therefore countries like India joining in, especially neighborhood, is hugely appreciated. And more so, this cooperation works so well. The first shipment which left Atari border, I joined the Foreign Secretary Singla together with the Afghan ambassador. We flagged off there, and since then, the trucks have been rolling. There has been a smooth, fairly smooth delivery, and WFP has been once India hands over in the Afghan side, WFP has been receiving it, storing it, and taking to the furthest point. World Food Program has a huge operation in Afghanistan. We have several hundred people working in with sub offices in multiple areas. We have hundreds of trucks, warehouses. Delivering food, reaching at the moment 12 million people or so. Of course, this operation is challenged because we need continued support. Afghani people are sadly suffering for years, and of course, World Food Program. As the largest humanitarian organization, we stand with the people of Afghanistan or wherever our help is needed, and we are very glad to work with India and join hand to support Afghani people in this time of crisis.
Well, interesting you say that, about 40,000 tons have already gone in. Once it reaches there, and that's something, was the main worry that India had, whether it will, once the Taliban government there receives it, what will happen to it, whether it will actually reach those, women or children who are suffering, and there's this humanitarian catastrophe happening there. How is it that you are, reaching the last mile, and what are the challenges you're facing while doing that, knowing well that, there is a Taliban government, although it is interim, but it has its own challenges?
You know, the beauty and the efficiency of World Food Program globally is we make sure any support or resource we receive from any government for that matter is absolutely fully accounted. And it is used for the purpose it is meant for. Now, in this case, Indian wheat received in Afghanistan border, delivered by the government of India, is stored in WFP managed warehouse under our lock and custody, and then it's our trucks or hired trucks take it to the inland states, to the farthest point wherever there is needed, and then we arrange the distribution to the needy girls and women and elderly and those really needing help directly. So it doesn't change hand, and we do that directly. So that's why we know, and we are for sure aware that what we receive is guaranteed to reach to the end beneficiaries. And we have several, wonderful stories from the people who received it. We have shared with the government of India. There has been many pictures, messages of appreciation by individuals, because the people of Afghanistan went through a very, very tough time.
Yes.
And therefore friends like India and India's help, along with of course many other generous donors have been coming forward to that support, and WFP is able to operate because of these assistance. World Food Program is a completely voluntary funded organization, but we have the capacity but we have the network to reach out to the people and make sure that support received is delivered and the life is saved. That's our ultimate purpose.
Well, Mr. Parajuli, now if I can shift towards Sri Lanka, South Asia, it seems, is now riddled with all kinds of economic crisis, but we also have a war raging on. I'll come to that. But in Sri Lanka, what is it that the World Food Program is doing? Because there also we see it all started with the economic crisis, fuel shortage, food shortage. And then it seems that, again, the expectation was that India will come ahead and help, although they looked at China also. But, how do you see that sort of panning
I
out?
think it is deeply saddening what's happening in Sri Lanka. It's a middle income country with flourishing economy and very well educated people. Of course, poor governance, mismanagement, wrong policies, and sadly COVID and the terrorism, all that brought a perfect storm-like situation, reaching Sri Lanka where it is today. And I'm glad there has been a number of supports from India, although World Food Program in India are not working hand in hand in Sri Lanka yet. I'm hoping that there would be in the future, and we are always ready to join hand with Government of India to support people of Sri Lanka. In fact, I understand that Government of India gave some 50,000 tons of rice already, and they've also provided some cash. World Food Program is of course appealing for generous support from countries to help Sri Lanka come out of this crisis situation. I believe once Sri Lanka comes out of this, it can easily stand on its own. So it is not going to be probably a long-term thing like Afghanistan for that matter. So the situation in Sri Lanka is a bit different, and with the revival of economy, the tourism, and bringing back the agriculture, I believe Sri Lanka can be in a couple of years maybe revived. But for now, children not getting nutrition, general population being hungry, can be of cause of huge concern. They have a school meal program, for example, and they're not able to feed the children in school. India has 118 million children being provided with the daily midday meals. So you can do that comparison, and it is sad. Of course, WFP is scaling up its operation. Recently, we had a voucher program run. Government of Australia had supported. There are multiple efforts to mobilize resources, targeting the vulnerable population, needy people, and also making sure that it brings, it addresses the concern of the Sri Lanka.
So, if I can ask you, in terms of what is WFP's assessment of the fact that how in general in this crisis in food security is going to sort of ail the South Asian region? Do you think it is now here to stay? We also have a war going on, and there are these reports that things from Ukraine, food grains, edible oil, may not be exported, and there are already the supply chains have been disrupted. So what is your assessment of that?
If we look at globally, there are multiple factors which is causing food crisis globally. Sadly, there is already over 40 million people who do not have enough to eat globally. And additionally to that is the factor of Ukraine war, with that the price rise and creating difficulty in accessing food for the poor, plus the scarcity of fertilizer and chemicals for planting crops means next year crop likely to be threatened. There are so much rise in prices of food in some part of the world, really a serious problem. And as you rightly pointed out, the Ukraine war has resulted in accessing the food from Ukraine, which is one of a major source of wheat for many countries, is threatened. So we need to really make sure that that moves out. The food from Ukraine, the wheat from Ukraine is coming out to feed the rest of the world. And then as well, the fertilizer and chemicals access to that happens, so we don't have a challenge. Sadly, conflict in number of countries, COVID, which happened last 2.5 years, has really put many countries in stress. The people getting people with serious crisis of food has doubled in the last 2-3 years, from 130 million to 340 or so million people. There are some countries, 45 countries, where 50 or so million people are verge of starvation. So the challenge exists. Unfortunately, that's putting a lot of pressure on us as an organization to appeal to mobilize money, to source food commodities, and then reach out to the needy people. In fact, my executive director, who was here last week, had a high-level study consultation with the government of India and engagement, and in fact he was applauding the provision of food support which government of India has done to meet the need of the people during the last 2 years of COVID, and that food safety net India has. Many countries don't have program like this, unfortunately. And then they depend on organizations like ours or they cut down meal, and some governments are making efforts, but they don't have money, and then they're taking a loan from World Bank, IMF, others, and then they're increasing their debt. So there is also this concern, but a lot of government are increasing their effort as well. But the important part is supplies, accessibility, and reaching out in various places.
So when you talk about challenges of mobilizing resources, is that something that you face in India? Because end of the day, India is also a huge country. It has its own sort of demand. The population is huge. And then we recently also saw the government taking a decision that it will not export wheat unless, it will do it on a case-to-case basis. So do you think measures like this are needed or they are not needed? What is it that WFP is doing in terms of telling India that, you probably need to do more?
Well, the good thing about India is looking after its own population. WFP is not feeding and don't have any food-based program. That's wonderful. Last 12, 15 years back, we have already stopped it because India is now a complete self-sufficient in food. So our role in India is bringing innovation, demonstrating with best practices, and also bringing technical assistance to support these programs, to make sure that everyone is included. There is a good targeting. There is also inclusiveness, etc. And issues like malnutrition. How do we address that? These type of and climate change. How do we work on those? These type of things we are doing. So therefore, I think our investment in India is not that huge in terms of money, values, and volume, but we play a catalytic role, and we provide value addition in terms of making program smarter, effective, and bring good experiences. Side by side, we also work with Government of India to support other countries and encourage and join hand with WFP in other countries, which we just did in Afghanistan, for that matter. And so therefore, we are in a way supporting India, but also taking India's experience to support other countries. Like, there is so much countries in the neighborhood, and other developing world can learn from India through its program, its work in agriculture, the transformation of agriculture India has achieved at the same time on these food-based programs.
Right. Especially my last question to you will be, with so much of geopolitical headwinds happening around the world, how is the World Food Program, whether it is innovating itself? Do you think that those your traditional practices of distribution of food or assistance, humanitarian assistance, with newer challenges, are they also changing? Are you trying to innovate, or you think that no, end of the day everybody needs food, so those measures remain the same?
Absolutely, we work on innovation every day. I'll tell you, when I began my work with WFP over 3.5 decades ago, food was the only basis. We imported food from outside, surplus countries, and provided and distributed food in that country where we work. Now, fast forward 3.5 decades, 40% of the WFP's transfer of resources isn't in money, cash. We give direct money to individuals, to those who need it, to buy food locally, so which also helps economy, market, etc. The other 60%, half of that we buy food regionally or locally, and then only the remainder we buy from far off because it's not available. Second part, we have moved so much on technology part. transferring this money individually through telephone system directly to the account of the individuals, and voucher, these type of things. And then also bringing, like the example I give you in India, our work in India is like 4 or 5 areas we're involved in. Number one is, these public distribution system and others India has. We're working to see how do we help add value and improve it. Several years back, it was all manually. We worked joint hand with government of India to transform it to biometrics. Recently, when India moved, because of the challenge of migrants, we work to support on one nation, one card system. We are looking into to see how do we reduce losses. We are working to reduce costs through best efficiency and system reform. Now, the challenge of malnutrition, we work towards supporting fortification, for example, with vitamin, minerals, and folic acid and others. There is also huge work we do on transforming behavioral changes with various messages and others. There is, of course, the concern of climate change, and we are looking at practices, best practices, and scaling up that through a small farmer, engaging with the small farmer and productive areas. Example I give you, we have recently introduced a system called Grain ATM, where like a cash, a beneficiary goes and puts his or her thumb print, and you get your entitled ration from that. We have helped to establish some production units for take-home ration for Anganwadi children. Now the UP government has added 200 units to the units we have put on. So multiple way we are adding values working with government.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Parajuli, for giving us all those details and telling us how exactly WFP worked. So this is Nayanima Basu with ThePrint, and with me on camera is Nirmal.
Thank you very much, and wonderful to be here with you.